Ami Horowitz, the political pundit equivalent of a YouTube prankster, has recently made a video called What Liberals Really Think About Black People. We asked liberal elites about voter ID and black people. To be exact, a voter ID law is a law that requires a person to show some form of identification in order to vote or receive a ballot for an election. Because of the inflammatory title of the video, I'm going to spend a few minutes of your time refuting the idea that what the liberal elites in the video have said was controversial. First of all, I'd like to address what he labels as liberal elites. 6 college students and a British guy in a red jacket are not liberal elites. Is it because they're college educated? Well, then it seems that about 30% of Americans are liberal elites, including you, Ami. Anyway, let's see what these elites had to say. Firstly, a number of them said that voter ID laws are racist.
Yeah, they're usually pretty racist and they're bad.
I think voter ID laws are a way to perpetuate racism.
If we take racist in this context to mean to disproportionately affect African American voters, then yes, voter ID laws are racist. The Brennan Center suggests that African American voters are less likely to have voter ID than white people by a margin of 25%. Further, the National Black Youth Organization contends that African American youth voters are asked for ID disproportionately than white youth. The two studies argue that the voter ID laws implemented in some states discriminate against an unaccounted amount of people who do not have ID, which is by and large comprised of African Americans and other minority voters. Is it controversial to say that voter ID laws are racist? No. Next, a guy said that it suppresses the African American vote.
Do you think it suppresses the African American vote?
Definitely.
The evidence for this is mixed. Some studies suggest that laws that require voters to have ID suppresses the black vote significantly, and some say that it does not significantly influence it. However, is this controversial? No. The guy in the red jacket suggested that some black people don't have money for an internet connection.
Yeah, you have to have access to the internet. You have to be able to pay an internet service provider for certain fees.
According to the United States Census Bureau, only 61.3% of black households have an internet connection. Also, it is important to note that a large percentage of adult African Americans are impoverished, a staggering 27.3%, which makes it significantly harder for some African Americans to apply for ID because only 48.4% of households earning less than $25,000 a year have an internet connection. This suggests that the claim that some African Americans can afford an internet connection to apply for ID is correct. Sorry, but this isn't controversial either. A guy said that it's difficult for some African Americans to reach DMVs from their area.
These type of people don't live in areas with easy access to DMVs or other places where they can get identification.
In Alabama, 30 out of 67 counties currently have only one DMV office open once each month. Furthermore, counties in Alabama with the smallest number of DMV services have an average population of about 29,000, with a quarter of them living in poverty and a third of them being black. Is it difficult for all African Americans in all states to reach DMVs? No. However, is it outrageous to suggest that some African Americans might have a difficult time reaching a DMV? No. This girl raised a point about the unfairness of felony disenfranchisement in swing states like Florida.
I also think there's a repression of black voting with how if you're a convicted felon, you're not allowed to vote and everything. And when you look at swing states like Florida, that's a huge population of the African American.
In other words, how a number of people convicted of a felony cannot vote in the state of Florida, and a large population of African Americans have been convicted of a felony, therefore cannot vote. Well, in Florida, 30% of the adult African American population cannot vote because of it, and that is indeed 1.2 million people. No, that isn't controversial either. So what does Ami do to combat these controversial arguments? Does he refute arguments with reason and logic, data or evidence? Does he get an expert on the subject to give his opinion or thoughts? No. He asks 11 random black people in the Bronx what they think about his misrepresentation of the college kids' views. Oh yeah, in a state that doesn't even need an ID to vote. Great work, Ami. Pundits like Ami do nothing but divide people in politics by exaggerating and lying about people's views. No one benefits from it except from him and his own pocket.